Modern technology has allowed the preparation and playing of D&D to be so easy. And you may be a pen and paper only, no technology kind of TTRPGer, and I respect you for that, but I'm not. I want speed, I want ease, and most importantly, I want to impress my players with smooth, well-presented gameplay that I've had fun creating, and my players have fun playing. In this video, I'm going to be using multiple online tools to see how long it takes to actually prep for a session. And look at that, only 30 minutes before I need to DM a session for a new group. I better create a small village that needs saving from some kind of evil monster. This video is sponsored by Describe, more about that in a bit, and it's supported by my patrons. If you enjoy my videos, please consider supporting. Thank you. Now, random name generators are great for this kind of thing, but so is ChatGPT, depending on how tolerant you are of generative AI. I'm going to have my players start off in a tavern. I know, how original, but I only have 30 minutes. So we need a name of the tavern and a list of NPC names. I also want to grab some names of some shops and businesses and other establishments in town that may or may not come up. I love lists of names for NPCs and businesses because it makes improvising so much easier when you at least have somewhere to start. But if I note a bunch of these names down, I can note things down next to them, like putting potential orc with the personality of Keanu Reeves next to an NPC name, or next to a tavern name, I can put has an illegal gambling room in the basement. So let me get started on that list. Obviously, if I had enough time, I would fill out my list with way more stuff and way more detail about each individual place, just so I wouldn't have to improvise as much, but the time is ticking and I can always come back to this later. But I've got a lot of names on here to choose from right now. Now onto maps. I don't normally make digital maps for my players, or even myself. I do find them fun, but the time it takes to make them just doesn't seem worth it in my eyes. That being said, I've recently wanted to get into making them just as a creative outlet. So let's say I wanted to make 2 maps of a village for these players to be in. One overview map for me and the players to look at and know what is going on, and the second map as a battle map. And I do use physical battle maps normally as well, but if I was playing online, I'd just use D&D Beyond's Mapplication, which looks like this. But I have heard Roll20 and Foundry VTT are a lot better, and we can talk about that in a later section. But for building out the overall village map itself, for this video, I wanted to find a free map making application or ones with a free version, and I came across Incarnate, which I just signed into, and I've messed around with it a little bit, and I don't think the free version is very good at all, or at least I'm not very good with it. Now, I've seen some people make insane maps with the paid version. Like, I know it can make phenomenal stuff, but I'm not sure I would recommend the free version. Please let me know if you have any recommendations for free ones in the comments. That being said, in the time I have, I do want to make a map of a village with at least a tavern in it and a bunch of other main buildings. So let's try and do it with the free version. Okay. So it's not great. But if I wanted to keep track of where buildings are in relation to each other, then does the job? No, don't click off the video. Okay, look, let's use something like 2minutetabletop.com. So I can just go into the free collection of maps and assets here, search village, and I can just grab one of these free assets. Or, now, hear me out, there's an itch.io medieval fantasy city generator. This will give me a randomly generated city, and every time I refresh this page, it'll just give me a new one, and a new one, and a new one, until I find something I like. In fact, that's perfect. That's my village. Next up, I want to really quickly prepare for the mood of my game. I'm a big fan of music, and you can just get a playlist on Spotify ready to go. Just search D&D and you'll see a bunch. Though it's something you probably want to subscribe for rather than having ads pop up. But if you wanted to do more with your sound and atmosphere, then this is where the sponsor of this video comes in, Describe. Describe can really bring your tabletop RPG to life with over 14,000 beautifully crafted descriptions to take your narration to the next level. Immersive soundscapes by any award-winning composers and interactive maps. Describe will let you make a more immersive, atmospheric, and compelling world in less time. And what is really exciting to talk about here is their web app Opus, allowing you to easily prepare and play AI-free music, ambience, and sound effects. Played all together, you can really complement scenes in your games, and you can stream it through browsers or Discord. Plus, now players themselves can play sound effects such as the sound of a fireball when they cast Fireball. The DM is still in charge and can mute players if needed, but this is a great way to allow the players to control the atmosphere of the game too when they're narrating what their character does. And now to choose a suitable monster for my players to fight, as well as prep my initiative tracker and get all that information in place. So for this, it's back to D&D Beyond. Now I believe this is for paid subscribers only, but there will be free versions that do similar things out there. However, I'm very much in the D&D Beyond infrastructure, and I do find it useful. I think it's worth the money, and I can just go into this encounters page, choose a D&D monster that matches my player's level just by choosing the challenge rating I want, and I can even choose by monster type, by its size, by its environment, by its alignment, and then boom, I've got my monster. But they've also done something that's really annoyed me with this. It's brand new, but the new player's handbook has player characters that are a lot more powerful than the old handbook. So the challenge ratings in this are no longer accurate if you're playing with the new player's handbook. And to get an accurate difficulty rating, I have to go build my encounters in D&D maps, which is really annoying. But it should hopefully all be ironed out once the new monster manual comes out in just a few weeks. But for now, bear in mind the challenge ratings in here may not be accurate. And I know because I almost killed my players last session. So now that I have a monster I can prep with the initiative tracker, I can save this encounter and then run encounter. Now that I have my monster, I can prep the initiative tracker with my players in there and even pre-roll initiative before the game even starts to save me some time. And from here, I can see what my monster can do and even roll directly on here. Honestly, this tracker has made life so much easier, and I'm sure this or something similar like this will do the same for you. I still find myself occasionally scribbling on a notepad next to this, or even having initiative on a separate piece of paper depending on my mood, but having every creature up on this screen that is on my battlefield is really nice. Just to be able to click them and see their stats and track their health is. And the other thing an initiative tracker like this is useful for is seeing my players' health. This is connected to their D&D Beyond character sheets. So when they take damage, I can see it. I know who is on full health and who's close to death, which can affect what my creatures decide to do next. And now I have a little bit of time left, so I can go in and do what I feel like I enjoy the most in prep time, which is figuring out how to tie my player's character's story into the main story, and make sure I prepare cool items or treasure for them to receive. If this is a long campaign, I can fit in plot points and story beats that will come into play later. So what's the best online tool for this? Discord. Just having an open communication with my players. You can even just message them before the session, asking what they hope to happen in this session with their character, then use that as inspiration. So I have encounters, I have an initiative tracker, I have maps and a village full of potential NPCs and locations. Now it's all about connecting the dots. I also know what my players would like to happen in this session, potentially. Which brings me to the final bit of this prep time, notes. Now normally my notes aren't in a notepad. Actually, I use another online tool for my notes, and that's just Google Docs. Though I know a lot of DMs like more in-depth applications like Notion. But for me, just a Word doc filled with a couple of different potential scenes for the session and plot points connecting those dots is all I need. I'll usually do scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, and then throw some combat in there. The scenes don't have to go like that in order. They can be switched around, and I can move key points that happen in some scenes into other scenes or into other areas completely if the players go a different location. That's it. Stop the clock. That is really all I need as far as prepping this session goes in 30 minutes. Everything else I can just use books I have like Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide in the moment and Google. Those will literally allow me to improvise anything on the fly. And you may think I'm just a little too reliant on D&D Beyond, because I do use it a lot. I also complain about it a lot. And there are plenty of other websites that do things very similarly, maybe even better. So why do I use it still? Well, for me, having everything just in one place is nice, and it's worth a subscription price. However, before you tell me that I'm a shill for Wizards of the Coast, note I am far from happy with D&D Beyond. The search functionality is bad, the development time is awful, things stay in alpha and beta for years, and it is still missing so much stuff obvious to me. Multiple times in a D&D game, I will tab out of D&D Beyond to use a different website, when whatever that website does, they could have easily put that into D&D Beyond. Now, despite my feelings of D&D Beyond and the stuff I've already shown you, I do use D&D Beyond for a couple of other things. I use it to see my players' character sheets. I use it for searching rules and seeing what spells do, etc. Sometimes I do just Google things rather than find them on D&D Beyond, if I'm being honest. But the initiative tracker we talked about before is honestly the best thing on D&D Beyond and makes my combat so much easier. And I think once they do get it more integrated with D&D Beyond maps, then it could all be really good. That being said, I've heard great things about Roll20 and Foundry VTT if you did not want to go down the D&D Beyond route. I want to make it very clear that for all the tools I'm talking about here, there are other alternatives out there. Outside of prepping and running the game, there are some really nice D&D tools like Hero Forge. I have players who love creating their characters as minis on this website. Even if they never really buy the mini itself, they just design it, get a screenshot, and that can be their profile picture on their character sheets. But I personally have bought a few minis from D&D Beyond, and while they're not cheap, they are really good. I wouldn't buy minis here for just like every NPC, because who cares, and that would cost me a lot of money, but I would recommend players who are going to be playing the same character for a long time to get a Hero Forge mini, if not for just collecting little mementos that you can look back on in the future. Natural Crit is a website that I just found out about and do wish I had found earlier. You see, I really like the idea of arranging all my old campaign notes, cities I created, NPCs, magic items, anything I've homebrewed. I love the idea of getting it all into some kind of document that looks and reads like an official D&D setting and adventure book. And Natural Crit allows you to do that. There is a little bit of a learning curve with how to turn this HTML code stuff into what it needs to be on the page, but honestly, just look at how nice I can make my notes. This would be especially useful to anyone who wants to maybe sell their own stuff. I love it and cannot wait to play around with it more. If you like these kinds of videos, please let me know by subscribing. It is a huge help for a small channel like mine, and if you wanted to support me in other ways, consider joining my Patreon. There's stuff up there for free, as well as for paid members, I have exclusive videos and live streams of me unboxing D&D products and giving D&D advice. This is full-time work for me right now, since the industry I was working in kind of fell apart. So I've got two options: keep making content here and try to improve on consistency and quality, or move away from YouTube and look for work elsewhere. I mean, yeah, just that's for context, that's why I'm plugging my Patreon. But join or not, subscribe or not, just thank you for watching this video this far in. That goes really far, so thank you. And we talked earlier about using Discord for communicating with your players before sessions to help with planning, but I would be remiss not to talk about it as a tool to help you run the session. If you play online or want to have a player join a game remotely, Discord is the best way to do this, either through video calls or just audio calls. It is also genuinely a great way for a DM to send information to players if they're all on laptops or their phones during the game. I play in person and I've found it super helpful to send recaps of what I just said in text form. For example, a long riddle the players have to solve, or a list of instructions, so they don't have to keep asking me to repeat myself. I can just send it on Discord. Same thing with things like maps or images. And while you can send all these to your D&D group in one chat, you can also contact individual players privately. Maybe you want to ping them and tell them that they've been brainwashed without the other players knowing. Or maybe you want to send them a new item that the other players won't know about. Or they find out a secret that they may not want to reveal to the other players as of yet. Being connected through something like Discord is just really useful, even if you are playing in person. And start playing. This is less a tool to help you in your games of D&D and more a tool to help you find games of D&D or like D&D. You just jump on a website, treat it like Fiverr, search for available games, book a DM for a price, and you're good to go. The future of D&D is a weird one. Wizards of the Coast are working on an official 3D VTT, where if they manage to pull it off, it will make building digital battle maps and running combat easier and more immersive than ever. Though it's still in development and we do not know when we'll see it fully released. But the DM will be able to make an environment, drop in the enemies, then import their players from D&D Beyond, so the players can choose what the characters do inside the interface of the VTT. And I know this is a contentious point, but it is more like a video game, more like combat in Baldur's Gate 3. On one side, for online play, this could become the whole D&D experience. On the other side, for in-person play, this VTT could be used by players simply to see what they can do on their turn and by the DM to keep track of initiative. You just drop the player's characters and enemies in an empty map, then the table can cast spells or make attacks, and the sound effects play through the laptops, and the VTT does the dice rolls for you, calculates the damage, and takes HP off anyone who gets hit. You theoretically can still play at your table with physical terrain and minis to track movement, but everything else could be done inside the VTT. But I do have my doubts about how this is going to run on mobile phones or even most laptops, so we'll see. And while we talk about the future of digital TTRPG tools, we have to talk about AI being implemented into everything. It's even on my iPhone now. Whether we like it or not, it's coming for our D&D. Now I want to make it clear, it's everyone's choice how much technology they want to use in their games. But on one side, I can see AI making D&D easier for DMs and players alike. Imagine an AI listening and transcribing entire sessions of your your game and then summarizing notes for you. Then you can ask it anything about previous sessions. Imagine just asking AI what happens when a player falls 30 feet. Is there anything that player character can do? And the AI can see the player's character and give them some options, or it just rolls the damage for you right there and then. Imagine your players talk to a random NPC and you need a quick description, name, and maybe even some kind of adventure hook for this NPC that align with the specific world and your previous sessions, and it just gives it to you. I think there's honestly a lot to be excited for when it comes to AI, if it wasn't for the awful side effects of it. Mostly for me, it's the environmental side effects as well as the legal issues when it comes to privacy and copyright. Also, do you really want to give some giant corporation unlimited insight into your private D&D games? AI, at best, is scary, but it is safe to say it is coming. I mean, it's here. So over the next few years, I think the TTRPG landscape is going to change a lot. For people who use digital tools, that is. I think a lot of people enjoy playing D&D the old school way. Pen and paper, physically rolling dice, actively creative thinking and improvising, rather than just asking AI what they should do next. And I think that chasm between playing D&D with digital tools or playing old school pen and paper is going to grow even more. People who get into D&D using digital tools will have no idea how to play the game with just pen and paper. And people who play the game with physical character sheets and no technology will have no idea how to play the game with digital tools. So while I have no doubt AI will get implemented into everything eventually, the real question is, would you use it? And what would you use it for? And to get into a very specific digital tool here, on D&D Beyond, you can download a free magic item tracker for your campaigns. It is super useful, but there are a bunch of other tips and tricks when it comes to handing out magic items that I wish I knew earlier. You know, before I gave out overpowered weapons that completely derailed my campaign. So watch this video here, all about that. Thanks for watching.